G'day everyone, welcome to the Digital Investor Podcast. I'm your host, Matt Rudd, and today I'm really excited to have a very special guest, one of our star graduates, David, who has just completed his second year with us. Now, David has a really interesting story because unlike most of our community, David came onto our program with quite a lot of experience, particularly in the digital space. He already knew about how to build websites. But what's really interesting is to hear David's story. He was maybe like some of you listening to this, he was a burnt out corporate. You're going to hear how he was able to transition into doing this now full time. He builds websites for businesses here in Brisbane. He's charging now anywhere from $6,000 up to $20,000 and beyond for website builds. And what we want to get out of David today is how's he doing that, some of the specific little techniques that he's using, and any tips that he's got for those of you who are total beginners. So David, thank you so much for coming along today to share your secrets.
Oh, I'm happy to help.
Yeah, because David, it is an interesting background where you started from, and also we're going to share some of the direction that you've taken with the strategies that we teach here. But can you start by sharing with us what is your background and why did that lead you to joining the Champions program?
Okay, 30 years of corporate communications experience. I started off in broadcast TV and then actually did a Dreamweaver web multimedia course 20 odd years ago, but used it as a precursor to jump into public relations and communications management, did a master's degree and all that sort of stuff. So I've primarily been managing web teams, graphic design teams, overseeing projects where I'd have people work for me in those functions. I got to a stage where I was just so burnt out. I was literally exhausted. COVID had hit 8 or 9 months in. a couple of months before, I'd been given 5 minutes notice that two of my team members were getting turfed out, and that's life in corporate land. And then it was my turn, and I could have easily jumped back into another corporate job, but I was physically and emotionally exhausted, and I needed a few months actually just to recharge and work out what we're doing. And my partner had enough, and she found a biz, and it aligned with what my skill base was. And it helped me to find it's just a tweaking on what I was doing already, and taking a lot of those skills and just a slightly different way, really working for myself with that same skill set.
Awesome. Yeah. So 30 years in corporate in this kind of a background, yet you still came, here we are, eBusiness Institute. We are experts at training beginners online, particularly corporate people like yourself, with digital skills. Now, you came to us corporate, but not a beginner. You came to us with already these digital skills. So what I'm interested in, and I think for someone listening here, and this is a pretty cool story, David, because I'll take you back 2 years. What did you first focus on? Let's take you back to your very first website that you built with us. To get going in this, you obviously followed our process, went from the foundations. What was the first website that you built?
Oh, look, it was for my brother. He up and decided he didn't like working for his boss one day, and he called me up that night and said, "Oh, I'm going to go out on my own. Build me a website." And then he expected it to get built a day or 2 days later, and he gave me no content and no context. But actually, it's helpful because I completed the web dev course, and it was good to have. For me, I learn when I'm physically doing a project more than the theoretical. And so I applied particularly I found the value out of the web dev course was the SEO research, the market analysis. And that really actually helped me to narrow down for my brother about where he was operating, where the market demand was. It's just a shame he didn't want to work on the Sunshine Coast in Queensland because there was just super demand for his services up there. But actually, we've got. I was pretty good. The website, I got ranking on Google very, very quickly. From memory, in a couple of months, it was actually competing against the number one competitor, his former employer, within
High five, David.
2 or 3 months. Yeah, I was pretty happy about that. And I learned a lot, and then applied those skills to refine really the service proposition for local businesses. And yeah, just went from there, from strength to strength.
That's perfect, because here you are. So, and take note, anyone listening to this, if you're a beginner, here's David. He already knew how to build websites. He'd used Dreamweaver before. But when David started, he started with the Web Dev program, which is our program for teaching you how to build a really good website. And like you said, David, and I want to say hats off to you. I remember when, working with you on that particular website, doing web renos, what I really like about what you did, and what I think you did so well, and what you do so well too today, is you went down the rabbit hole on the SEO side, and because obviously you built the website straight away, easy. I didn't have to teach you anything there. But the SEO bit, you're a very technical person, details oriented, and I think hats off to you. I think you and I and Kim, your partner, were very pleasantly surprised at how quickly you ranked that. You just beavered away at it. And like you said to me before, you spent a lot of time first off for you. You didn't have to worry about the technical stuff. You more just had to understand the marketing and SEO and how to approach small businesses. That's pretty much was your initial part of your journey? That was your main focus, is figuring out that, would you say?
It was more about look, I've come from a very strong writing background for corp comms, but when you're writing for large corporations, some of them are so big they don't actually care whether they rank or not for a particular product or service, or they're so big they're going to get the media coverage anyway. But when you're working for a smaller outfit, or your own website, and you're fighting against a lot of other little fish, then you've really got to pay attention to the SEO. There's a different way of thinking and weaving. I mean, the corporate Dave wouldn't write some content like I write now. The weaving of the content, and even the SEO subheadings. You just wouldn't do it. And there's often 6 or 7 or 8 fingers in the pie when you're drafting a piece before it gets out. Now at bang, I've got something out pretty quickly. So it depends on the market and what your aim is. And for me, obviously, and this group is about ranking quickly on Google, and generating customer leads, or affiliate income, etc.
And so for you, then, coming from the big corporate background, when you worked on your first site with which was your brother's, which is a relatively, like, it's a normal, what we'd call a small business here on the Sunshine Coast in Queensland. How did you go from there to where you are today? So this is just in 2 years. You're charging now, I noticed, recently you charged $22,000 for a website build. What was your progression? Because there's a lot of people listening to this who are like you, come from corporate. How did you crack into that market of building websites for kind of, I guess, medium-sized businesses where you're charging $6,000 to $10,000 a website build? What's
Oh yeah, well look, even small players these days, my minimum $6K. So because I offer a massive amount of value that a lot of the competition doesn't offer. I like to include as standard a Google Business Profile. I like to actually put a news feed in with the blog posts, because I'd like to actually, when the website's built, I automatically put the Google reporting in, and post the articles on the client's Google Business Profile on the social channels. They're value adds. There's been an evolution in how I deliver websites for local businesses. It really helped to join the BNI. I actually held off doing it, Matt, because I felt, oh my goodness, there's so much to learn. I don't want to join something else.
Yeah.
I actually joined when I was comfortable with the technical side, and then all that
Okay.
corporate communications and the writing and the problem solving and what have you all came to par. In reality, when you work for large corporates, they're just individual teams that have buckets of money. They have a specialization in particular areas. They have often groups that have no clue what they're doing with their communications. And from a comms point of view, you're working with small businesses in large corporations anyway. So I just applied that skill set, and I found pretty quickly with BNI, I actually got that 22 K client. There was a second cab off the rank at the local BNI chapter. And the background there was I'd worked as a sales and marketing manager for an import distributor firm. My background is originally in broadcast television, so I can write technical, scientific, that type of thing. Plus, with the web skills, the client is a import distributor for thermal cameras. I got them. No other web dev had got them at all. And I turned around a website that was taking 29 seconds to load. It was loaded on a US server. It was which should have been Australian for local speed. It had been hacked. They weren't getting any leads of it. And the money I charged them for the year, including ongoing SEO, they made back just off income from leads for their thermal training within 2 months. They love me. In fact, we're talking at the moment about a closer relationship and how I can help grow their business with new income streams. And
So within 2
so it could be
months.
quite positive there. Yeah.
So yeah, quite positive. I like that. So basically, I should explain, David, to everyone listening here, in case they're overseas. BNI is a business networking group here in Australia. Oh well, it is overseas as well. But so your big kickoff, like we find a lot of champions, is joining basically a business networking group of some kind, and like you said, you got some good clients through there pretty quickly. Did you find it? And did that lead to referrals then?
Yeah, and look, I don't show. I'm a smack my hand, Matt. I never did your 100-day challenge. I think because years and years of working in sales and marketing, I'd done the cold calls. And look, I haven't needed to. My agency website ranks well, but I haven't gone out of my way to do any type of advertising for it or cold calling. I don't need to. I get a lot of referrals. A lot of referrals I get from IT companies that are typically wary of web dev, web SEO type people, because a lot of cowboys out there that charge a fortune for hosting and do copy competitors' content and don't look after their clients and some pretty bad behaviour. And so when they do actually find someone they can trust and looks after them and their clients, it's a big deal for these companies to actually hand over their clients for services they don't want to provide themselves. So typically they're doing B2B managed services, outsourced IT. They'll ask me to do a web review typically, and I do detailed web reviews, and I typically get a lot of leads, a lot of paid jobs out of those referrals and then doing the web reviews.
And
it's helping the client actually work out just where the website's positioned, but where their brand's positioned, where their headspace is at, what the competitors are doing. I'm surprised the amount of times that a business will tell me my competitors are A, B, and C, and I'll do the research and find, no, actually, well, I'd argue it's X, Y, Z, and there's the major trend towards a new service that could be a real game changer if you can jump on top of it. So there's a lot of research that goes into doing the web reviews and providing that advice, but it leads to a lot of clients.
So that's one of the things that I want to mention, that I'm really impressed with what you do so well. Like you said, your journey's evolved over the 2 years, and now you're finding this is one of David's secret strategies that he uses, which you're sharing publicly here. And thank you for sharing that, is that part of your, I guess, initial consultation with someone, you do a web reno, which is basically like looking at the marketplace and doing the keyword research like we teach here. And you found by going in deep with that, with these clients, it's leading into these big website builds.
Yeah, like my go-to if I've any type of referrals, the very first thing I do is run the domain through Google PageSpeed. That is gold. The matter, if I see that the client's got a 10 or 15 or 20-second delay for full load of their website, and they've got a low Google PageSpeed score, or they're using large format JPEGs instead of WebP, or whatever, they've got excess CSS or JavaScript coding. The website hasn't been page optimized. Red flags. And then even better, well, not so necessary for the client, but even better if I can then point out, hey, the website hasn't been built for mobile phones. The content's spreading over the side of the screen, or it's too slow to load, that type of thing. But then I go deeper into really detailed email reports, and I actually offer a free Skype call. Matt, I know you're not a big fan of Skype,
yeah.
but Skype's
how
awesome.
are you doing all this, David? Yeah, so we should explain too. You're doing all this from home, so this is kind of set this up as a lifestyle business now for you and Kim. So you pretty much there's no more commute anymore or anything like that. You're working from home. How are you when you're doing these sorts of reviews and chatting to clients? It's not face to face.
No, in fact, these clients that have paid me serious money that I've never met in person.
All right.
Yeah, I really should, actually. I actually really should. I've got some really awesome relationships with people I've never physically met, but we've got this in-depth trust. And if I think about it,
cool.
I'm setting up the Google reporting and I'm going into their socials. They're handing over a lot of logins, and there's a lot of trust there. But I treat those relationships as gold, very similar to previous roles, really, and you build that rapport. And I do actually like the BNI philosophy of giver's gain. So I noticed that you and Liz do it as well. You give more than you expect to receive, without killing oneself, I guess. Yeah. But actually, it's really, really useful because people value that service.
And hats off to you, like really well done. Here you are thinking, like just 2 years ago, like you said, burnt out corporate, 30 years, full on role. And now you've got this, let's call it it's not the lap, like it's a lifestyle business. You've set it up from home with clients you've never met virtually, but they trust you implicitly, and you're doing an awesome job for them because you're getting really good results. And so how are you in like 2 years, when you look back at this journey, David, over this last 2 years, now that you've settled into it and you've found kind of your sweet spot here, are you enjoying this I know this is a little bit of a loaded question, but do you and Kim now enjoy this way more than when you're in corporate? Have you noticed other changes in your life?
Oh yeah, look, I'm not wasting an hour in the morning or hour and a half, whatever it is, getting ready, putting a suit on. Oh my goodness, can't stand it. I've got 2 suits. I'm surprised in the cupboard that I haven't worn in 2 years, and it's bliss. Right. So politics and all that nonsense.
So you're obviously came onto this program quite advanced, with quite advanced technical skills, as everyone's heard here today, if you're listening to this, but also you've got to see that David has just blitzed it. You do such good websites for your clients. You really look after them. You're really good at SEO now as well, which is a new skill for you. So looking back, David, over this last 2 years, someone listening to this podcast today, brand new, they're not like you. They're not going to have the technical skills like you did. What would be your advice to them for someone getting started listening to this today?
I would actually join a BNI, but I'd actually be very selective which BNI I choose. And I remember you giving me sage advice about going closer city and bigger businesses, but I found the more established BNIs had split up the website from SEO from digital marketing. And my lesson in that environment is it actually kills your opportunity to sell your skill set. Because inevitably I've found I chose a BNI chapter that didn't have anyone, and I negotiated that while I was at the BNI that no other SEO or digital marketer could come in, because otherwise you run out of things to say, and it's a good opportunity. You've got to do a 1-minute pitch each week. It's good opportunity to be able to talk about different things. So I've talked about all sorts of lead-in topics that lead back to core services. So Google business profiles, Google ad campaigns, different types of strategies for specific trades or sectors, even IT security. Being able to tie a new topic in that leads back to core services is really, really important. So finding a BNI chapter that doesn't have established players so you can build your brand is really important. I'd also say that I wasn't comfortable joining until I really, really had my systems in place. I'm actually surprised how many BNI members are very, very new. And so I was assuming that they'd be much more established. So you can actually grow with people and build that trust.
And I think, David, that's something, again, that I'll come back to that I noticed when you first got into this. You did spend a lot of time, first of all, just learning what we teach, like the foundations, basically getting that really dialed in before you joined your first BNI, which I should mention again, BNI is just a business network. You can join any business networking group if you're listening to this. Doesn't matter which one, and it doesn't matter, just look in your local area. There'll be some form of a business networking group. Big thank you there, David, for coming along today and sharing some insights into how you've done, because your journey is so different. And big thank you. And guys, if you're listening to this and you're interested in learning about building or buying websites, go and check out our free masterclass, which is on the eBusiness Institute website. And if you want to maybe start like where David did too, learning the basics of how to build a really good website, consider joining up with our web dev program. Go and check it out, and we'll see you on the next podcast.